It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. Glad to have you all here with me today. Got a pretty fun show, man. I'm excited about this one. So I kind of want to touch on a couple pitchers for LSU. One in a very positive light, the other in a not negative light, just a where should we you know what? It's gonna be very similar to the Thatcher Hurd conversation that we've had, but instead it's going to deal with Justin Loer. So I want to do that, and then we finally got the news about Alex Box being renovated. So I want to touch on that a little bit. We did some short form content on that when the board officially approved the renovations, but I do want to touch on them a little bit, give you some thoughts, and what also could be coming down the pike there at the baseball facilities here in the future. Get subscribed up to the podcast if you haven't already. Subscribe up to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Smash the like button, share it out. All of that greatly appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter at Musso Matthew, Facebook Matt Musso, all of those places. Love to interact with all of you. Let's dive right into it. So when we were recapping LSU's 3 out of 4 weekend with Stony Brook in Northern Illinois, we focused so much on some of the inconsistencies on offense that weekend and the Thatcher Hurd conversation that I didn't even really talk about Luke Holman. And that's a misstep on my part that I didn't leave enough time to do that. So I'm going to do that real fast right now. He's incredible so far through 2 starts this season. And I think we all get so caught up in that Friday night role and whatnot that we lose sight of how important spot number 2 is in the rotation. And let me also say this. Each spot on the rotation is massively important, carries massive significance. Friday, we know what it is. It's your front of the line guy. You're supposed to go out there and get that big win, right? Get the team off to a great start. It's a lot easier to win the series when you have 2 chances to win 1. We all know what that spot is and what that spot means. And then Sunday, y'all, Sunday is the best day to win. Sunday is the best day to win a baseball game because you're either finishing off a sweep, you're winning a rubber match to take the series, or you salvage game number 3 and try to build momentum off of that. You never walk out of the ballpark feeling bad when you win on Sunday. So that's obviously a huge role. If you have a luxury to have somebody to go out there and get you a great start there, that's great. And then there's Saturday, or the number 2 spot, which I would argue is probably could be the most important spot in the rotation. And I think if you hear me say that, you're like, well, yeah, I mean, if you have that 1-2 punch, everybody's looking for the 1-2 punch. You get that win on Friday. You got the great guy backing him up there. Bam, you can knock out a lot of series 2-0. Yeah, you can. That's very true. But the reason I look at it as being so important is for the situation you saw in that 4-game series that LSU just played against Stony Brook in Northern Illinois, where you have the bounce back potential. And to have a guy like Luke Holman in that spot to pick up your Friday guy who struggled and you lost, to potentially come back in that spot and be able to have an ace type guy to even your series up is huge. And we finally got our first look at that against Northern Illinois, because after LSU drops that game to Stony Brook, you're not trying to even up a series, but it's the same premise of that, and it's a huge spot. You need the bounce back, and Luke Holman proved he's the perfect person right now to have there. 7 shutout, 8 strikeouts, didn't walk anybody. The efficiency was off the charts. Like, if it wasn't late February, if this was late April, he's going CG. Like, he has a legit chance to go CG in that ballgame. The pitchability off the charts, the efficiency, as we said, off the charts. He's a cool cat on that mound, too, where you don't know if he's down 3 or up 3 when you just watch him pitch. He's the same guy every time. And I'll tell you what I thought was massive for him in that outing against Northern Illinois was the better feel that he had for his curveball, because that just makes him even more dangerous. The fastball, we know what it is. It's a really good pitch with a lot of carry, plays well up in the zone, but it's 93, 94 miles an hour. 94 is really the high end. What he needs is pitches off of that, the good secondary stuff. His first outing, you mainly saw slider. He had a much better feel for the curveball this time out, and it showed, and it made him even more dominant. Loved what I saw from Luke Holman, again, and in that backup spot, showing he can be the guy to pick somebody up. And you might see him at some point in a Friday night start for LSU, sure. They love consistency over there, and they love routine, though. So I don't know if they want to move him currently. And if they don't, I feel great having him in that number 2 spot. He can win you a series, or he can even it for you. Cool customer on the mound. I know y'all, look, it's 2 starts into this thing for him. We got a long way to go. But from everything we heard about him, from everything we talked about with him throughout the scrimmage season, and now from what you've seen early on, 2 starts into this thing, it's hard to look at Luke Holman and not go, he's an unquestioned hit out of the transfer portal for LSU this cycle. It's really hard to look at that and not say it. So very pleased with Luke Holman. That was a big spot for him to go out there and shove like he did. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit further into the bullpen now. I wanted to have the Justin Loer conversation. And I want to preface it by saying this. Yes, this can be considered nitpicking, okay? Because it's 3 appearances in for this guy. He hadn't even thrown 3 full innings. All right? But I look at him. I think they look at him. I think you all look at him as somebody who's going to be a big part of this staff. And he's off to a little bit of a slow start. And is that concerning? And I'll also say I think this is very similar to the Thatcher Hurd conversation that we've been having. Because, yes, while Justin Loer is off to a slower start than I think many of us would have hoped, you see the signs. I mean, the stuff has been plenty good enough. The consistency with it just hasn't been. 2 out of the 3 starts, 2 out of the 3 appearances have left you wanting a little bit more. That's fair to say. Not sitting here telling you panic, not sitting here telling you, start losing your mind. Just you want a little bit more. I think I know how we can get that from him. So if I look at his first outing of the season, that was against VMI on opening day, right? And he came in to help get out of that jam that chased Thatcher Hurd in the 3rd. And he strikes out the first guy he faced. It was in his next inning of work that he got into a little bit of trouble. A single, he would make a throwing error on a pickoff attempt, and then would give up a double. And then he'd get in a little bit more trouble after that, a 4-pitch walk, a wild pitch, but ultimately would get out of it. So you look at it, you go, unearned run. It did give up the lead at that point in the game. Man, you would have loved to have seen him be in the zone a little bit more, pound the zone a little bit more. We talked about that in the recap of that game. It was 19 pitches, 10 strikes. I'm sorry. It was 26 pitches, 13 strikes. But it's one. You'll have more coming forward. And you saw him again later in that weekend. He came in that Monday game against Central Arkansas. He was awesome. Struck out the side through shutout ball. There was a hit in between the strikeouts, but strikes out the side and pounded the zone a lot more consistently in that game. That was 19 pitches, 12 strikes. So much more efficient from Justin Loer. I don't know why I just blanked there. Then what happens on Saturday against Northern Illinois happens, and that's where you get to the conversation we are now, because it's like, he's brought into a 5-0 game to face the top of the Northern Illinois order, and he gets a strikeout to start it, but then there's a walk, and back-to-back doubles. And he's given up 2 runs. It's 5-2. They yank him and go to Gavin Guidry, and Gavin Guidry closes the game. So when I look at the outing against Northern Illinois, the outing against VMI, the thing that stands out to me most is Loer falling behind in the count early. And maybe a little bit of a lack of fastball command, because he needs that fastball to be, spotted up so you can really take advantage of that filthy slider that he's got from the left side. And I think that's lacked for him a little bit in the consistency department. But when I look at him falling behind in counts, I mean, I think, look, we could go back to that VMI, series for you. It's when he gives up the single in his second inning of work, it's a full count. But at one point, it was a 3-1 count. You know, it wasn't like one of the full counts where you're 2-2 and you throw a ball. He was behind 3-1, worked it back full, but then still gives up the single. The double that scored that run came on a 2-1 pitch. Again, behind. Then there was a 4-pitch walk. Even the fly out he got to end that inning, he was behind 2-0 before getting it to 2-1. Behind early in the count. You see what I mean? Saturday against Northern Illinois is another perfect example of this. When he gets Parcell swinging to open that inning, he got ahead in the count 0-2. Now, it ultimately ended up being a 1-2 count that he struck him out on, but he got ahead 0-2. He could go anywhere with him. And then falls behind to Irato, and that ultimately becomes a walk. The double to Summerhill he gives up is a 2-1 count. It was 2-0 before 2-1. Behind in the count again. Mason Kelly double. That was on an 0-1 pitch. Sometimes you're just going to get hit. That happens. But I think the trend, I think you can see there enough. He's got to start getting ahead in the count a little bit more. And he will. He will. Because, again, you've seen enough of it. And his history, the sample size is large enough that he's going to be really good. It just needs a little bit more consistency from him. So I fully expect him to pitch Wednesday against Rice in some capacity. I was actually surprised they didn't get him into the game on Sunday against Stony Brook because Jay Johnson had mentioned doing that post-game after the Northern Illinois game, but I think you absolutely see Justin Loer Wednesday against Rice, and that's something that I want to keep a close eye on. So, again, I think it's very similar to the Thatcher Hurd conversation where, no, the consistency is not necessarily there, but I think you're seeing signs, and I think he's trending closer to the right direction than the wrong direction here early in the season. Again, like I said, it's nitpicking because the thing is, he's falling behind in counts. It's not ending in walks, right? That's a good sign. He's at least getting back in there. The problem is teams are hitting 355 off of him. That's an issue. I'm sorry. Teams are hitting 417 off of him. That's an issue. But with more crisper pitches, with more consistency in that will, more quality of a strike, that will correct itself. But if he's going to throw strikes, I'm going to feel good about him being in the ballgame because especially at the back end, you need someone to come in and throw strikes. Just the 2 walks so far in the 3 outings, that's plenty good enough for me to go in with 5 Ks. That's what I mean, right? That's a good ratio to start out with. So I think he's closer to the, figuring it out end of things than he is to just toiling in trouble after trouble after trouble. But you do want to see a little bit more consistency, and I think it's going to start with fastball command for him and getting ahead early in the count so he can utilize that great slider that he has. All right, it is Musso at the Box. Glad you were here with me. Again, get subscribed up if you haven't already on YouTube and on your podcast app. Smash the like button. It's greatly appreciated. And before we get out of here, let's talk about the renovations coming to Alex Box Stadium. So, I'm sure by now all of you have seen the Board of Supervisors at their most recent meeting approved renovations to Alex Box Stadium, and it's the ones we've been talking about for an awful long time, moving the bullpens off the field, which is going to be so nice for LSU. But what's better, and for player safety and all that, what's better is what they're putting basically in their place, and that is a really cool new premium seating option, which I'm pretty fired up for. So the home team bullpen will move under the right field bleachers, like where the students sit. Those right field bleachers behind the wall. They'll have a door or something on the wall for access to it. The visitor bullpen will remain down the left field line, but they will construct a wall around it, which I think is going to be really interesting to see with foul territory. And ricochets off that wall. If the ball comes inside the line or whatnot, that's going to add an interesting dimension to the ballpark and how it will play. But there's just no other place to put it. you have to kind of keep it there and just close it in. You can't put it under the left field bleachers. You'd have to raise them up, and then you'd have to do something with the scoreboard because it's out there, and that thing's a monstrosity. You can't put it under the bleachers on the left field line because there's concessions and bathrooms and all of that right there. They kind of just have to stay there. So they'll construct the wall around it, and like I said, that'll add a very interesting dimension. And then the specialty seating. That's what makes this really cool, is what's going to be put in place of the bullpen, especially down the right field line. So they're going to add about 160 seats. They're going to add 160 seats to Alex Box Stadium. Field level specialty premium seating option where, they're going to have like a table in these booths cut out. Kind of think like you see at in the end zones at football games, like that type of field level access, but not a suite per se. More of like there's like a kind of like a bar top type thing with like 4 or 5 chairs, and your field level down the right field line and partially down the left field line, but the majority of it is going to be right field. It's going to be and I think it's 2-tiered. I think both of them are going to be 2-tiered from some of the renderings that I've seen. Forgive me, I don't have them in front of me. But that's going to be a really cool option. Everybody wants more premium seating areas like that in Alex Box Stadium, and you're going to get them. And it looks like it's going to be really, really cool. It'll increase capacity, and again, I'm curious to see how that plays out, especially down the right field line with foul territory. I think one thing we're all going to see with this is foul territory really shrink in Alex Box Stadium. There's not a whole bunch to begin with, but I think there might end up being less, which is going to make the park play more offensive, that's for sure. But maybe they won't be. Maybe the field level stuff won't be as far out as I'm envisioning it. Again, I couldn't really tell from the renderings, but we will see. It's going to be an awesome addition to the stadium that I know many people want that, and there's still plenty they could do. We'd all love to see them get rid of the bleachers and do chair backs and everything, but one thing at a time. I mean, this project right here is going to cost $1 to $3 million. It's going to start June 24th, 2024, and be done. It's scheduled to be done February 1st and be in time for the 2025 regular season. As for what else is coming for the box, I will say for Alex Box Stadium itself, this is the first upgrade really to this scale since they added the extra suites. They put in about 8 more suites one year and kind of closed it off down the entire grandstand level. This is really the first major upgrade fan-wise. I mean, they added some bleachers out in right field, but that's not what anyone was looking like. It's not what's going to move the needle with this, right? This will. So this is a really cool that offers a different point of view, field level like that. It's a premium option. It'd probably be a little bit more expensive because of that, but it's still a really, really cool option that LSU is bringing in there. Again, as I said, for what's next for Alex Box Stadium, this is going to have to hold you over for a while, I do believe. We'd all like to see him get rid of the bleachers and all that, and 100%. But the next thing that I think they work on, Jay Johnson wants himself an indoor field, and they're going to make that happen. He's going to get that, and it's something that they need, because that way they can take infield. They can do anything like that in any weather, and they will get that accomplished. I really have no doubt. He spoke of that when he was asked about facilities. That was the first thing out of his mouth, and it's not the first time. He's been vocal about wanting that really ever since he got to LSU, and I think they will ultimately get that done. When, I'm not sure, but it'll be a great amenity. So they're doing something for the fans. Now they have to do something for the players as well. And that's what it's going to ultimately end up being. And that'll be really cool when that's done. There are no renderings, no plans for that or anything right now. But if Jay Johnson's vocally saying that, like in the media, he's pushing for that to get done. And guy got 100 wins this past weekend at Alex Box, and got a national championship before he got to 100 wins. He's going to get what he wants, and that's what he wants, and eventually he'll have it. All right, so there you go. there's your update on your renovations for the box. I'm fired up for it. Can't wait to see it done next season. But we got a long way to go here in this season. A lot of baseball left to play, a lot of games left to win, a lot of coverage left to bring you. So all of you tuning in, greatly appreciate it. Thank you again. Subscribe, smash the like, follow me, all of that stuff, appreciated. And be back. We got our game to preview. LSU faces Rice on Wednesday. That's next time on Musso at the Box.